In this video series, we're going to take a look at the various steps involved to build this deck. From the very beginning, dealing with this old decrepit structure, all the way to the installation of the cable railing system. In this first video, we're going to evaluate the deck and make a decision if we can reuse some of the deck structure or we have to build this new deck completely from scratch. We're going to do some demo, we'll make some preparations, so stick around. My starting point with this project was this old deteriorating deck. It is a floating deck supported by cantilevered stringer boards. The deck doesn't look great, but to my surprise, these foundation boards look pretty good overall. They're straight, they're not sagging, and look solid near the house, the critical load fulcrum point. However, there is some definite rot near the ends of some of these beams. If not too bad, I might be able to cut the ends and reuse these stringers. Now, to take a closer look at the ends of the stringers, I started to remove a few of the old deck boards. These boards came up easily with a little persuasion from a crowbar. Most of the screws had rusted away, so there was not much holding them down. I was already getting a better look at the stringer ends damage, but I decided to pull a few more rows to be able to see how far back the stringer damage went. It turned out only a few of the boards had rot more than a couple inches back from the edge, so I decided I could cut off the bad ends to expose solid wood. It looked like if I cut 6 to 8 inches off, that should do the trick. I used a circular saw to carefully make the cut. Sure enough, the wood was in solid shape at this point. Next, I had to cut the same amount off each stringer. Now, the result with this move meant I could likely reuse the original deck stringers. However, I would have to sacrifice a bit of the finished deck surface. And since I had some paint around, I sealed the cut ends for an extra bit of protection. Next, I cleaned some salvage pieces of 2x10s to create a new stringer cap. Using an angle grinder, I cut off any exposed screws. Then I used a speed square to guide a circular saw to create square end cuts on the boards. I attached these sections as a stringer cap by using screws to attach them to the clean edge of the fresh cut stringer boards. I had some seams that didn't line up with stringer board mounting edges. I cut blocks out of the remaining scrap and placed those between stringers where a cap seam was present. I used screws to secure these blocks and now had a fresh new edge for the perimeter of the new deck. Now, for the few surface rot spots in the remaining old stringers, I cleaned out the holes and filled them with a bondo-type wood filler. This was primarily an effort to keep water from pooling in any low spots. Now I wanted to take a closer look at the stringer boards near the house side of the wall and needed to remove more deck boards to do so. I tried to remove screws, but many were corroded so bad there was nothing to bite with the drill head. A pry bar helped again to remove the deck boards. Since these stringers were holding up the deck, I wanted to make sure they were in good shape underneath the house floor. To do so, I popped off a cap board to examine a few stringers under the house. Thankfully, they looked good and made me feel better about the integrity of these stringers. And now at this point, I decided I would be comfortable building the new deck on top of these old stringers. But before I went any further, I wanted to go ahead and design and thoroughly plan the actual deck I wanted to build. I went ahead and I modeled using a 3D modeling software. This really helped with project conceptualization as well as making accurate material estimations. I highly recommend doing some sort of 3D model when you're doing an elaborate DIY project. It's so helpful on so many levels. To minimize water intrusion, I used a window flashing tape over the stringer and cap boards. I used small 2-piece sections of tape, making sure the upper tape overlapped the bottom, and I did this the entire length of the deck. Now in the next videos, we are going to look at the installation of the railing deck post as well as the decking itself. So stick around for those, give the video a like, and if you're interested in more DIY projects, consider subscribing. Thanks for watching.